All right, Panthers. So we're going to look at these two documents. I'm just going to walk you through kind of sourcing these two documents, since this will be the first time that we've done this. And if we look at the first document is Thaddeus Stevens. Now, I gave you some background information on who Thaddeus Stevens is just below it in the italics here. Okay, so before we even read what Thaddeus Stevens has to say, we're going to figure out who Thaddeus Stevens is so we can get some idea of what we're about to read. So we read this and it says Thaddeus Stevens was a member of the House of Representatives. So he's a politician. He's a member of the Radical Republicans. He's one of the leaders of the Radical Republicans. We know the Radical Republicans are a part of the Republican Party during and right after the Civil War, who believed that the only goal of the Civil War was to end slavery, and who believed that the South needs to be punished for leaving the Union and creating the Confederacy and starting a war, causing a war between the states. So we know who the Radical Republicans are. We also know Radical Republicans are extraordinarily interested in and supportive of equal rights, securing equal rights and civil rights for newly freed slaves. So we also look at this. He delivered the speech to Congress, so that's his audience. He's speaking to other elected officials. And he gives it in March 19th, 1867. So we know Civil War is over. We know we're in the middle of Reconstruction, of trying to put this country back together. We know the President of the United States at this time is Andrew Johnson, who was not well liked by the Radical Republicans. And so based on all of this information that we have, we can build a context around what we think Thaddeus Stevens is going to say. So he's probably going to say something about Reconstruction. He's probably going to say something encouraging or supporting a bill or a law for Reconstruction. And it's probably going to talk about how the South needs to be punished, or what we need to do for newly freed slaves, for freedmen, is what they were called. So we've got all of that information before we even read one word of this excerpt, and it gives us a framework. It gives us a context to put this in. Remember, context is the larger picture. That's events that are impacting the times. So the context of this is Reconstruction, immediately after the Civil War, trying to bring the country back together. What's that process like? If we go down to the next two documents, there's two documents here from Andrew Johnson, who is President of the United States. So I just labeled one Andrew Johnson Speech 1, and then the next one is Andrew Johnson 2. So we want build some context. We want to source this document before we read it, so we have some idea, a sneak preview of what we're about to read. So I gave you some information in italics. Andrew Johnson was a Democrat. He was a Southern Democrat who becomes President of the United States after the assassination of Lincoln. He's President of the United States from 1865 to 1869. No, that's right. It's not. 1869. Sorry, he leaves in 1869. So this is a speech that he gives. It's a campaign speech. So he's probably talking to likely voters. He's trying to influence voters to agree with him. And he's talking about the Freedmen's Bureau. Now, the Freedmen's Bureau, if you don't know what it is, was an organization, a government organization created by the Radical Republicans. And it was a government-funded organization whose goal it was to educate and help find jobs for freed men, for former slaves. And Thaddeus Stevens was one of the champions of the Freedmen's Bureau. And Thaddeus Stevens and the Radical Republicans passed lots and lots of bills trying to support the Freedmen's Bureau. Andrew Johnson, we know, even though he was a Southerner, he didn't support secession. And he never leaves with the South. He remains in Congress because he refused to support the South leaving. he is very sympathetic towards the South, and he's not against the cause of the South. He just didn't like them leaving. And as a result, Andrew Johnson vetoed pretty much all of the radical Republicans' bills. He thought they were too harsh on the South. So probably based on all of that information, the context that we now have, we can read this this speech here and probably know he's probably going to talk about the Freedmen's Bureau. He's probably going to talk about why he doesn't support or why he vetoes certain bills, and he's going to present it in such a way to try to get people to agree with him. And then if we go down to Andrew Johnson's speech number 2, again, we got to build some context. We're going to source this. So we're going to look at this, and it's a speech that he gives to Congress in 1867. So he's speaking to other elected officials, and that's his audience. And it's right after he vetoed a law that would have given freedmen, former slaves, freedmen, the right to vote. And he vetoed that law. So probably, based on that sourcing information, we can reasonably assume what he's going to talk about is try to explain why he doesn't think that former slaves should have the right to vote. That's all sourcing, right? Before we even read it, we sourced each of these documents. So it gives us a framework or a context to put these documents in so that we have like a sneak preview of what we're about to read. And that's really important that we do it, okay? That it just helps us make sense of the document. And like I said, in the video you guys watched on Friday, you guys source all the time. You're constantly sourcing. And you don't even know it when you're looking for songs. You're looking for certain genres, you're looking for certain artists, and then you look at the title of the song. You might look at the time that the song was made, you know, the year or so that the song was made, and all of that helps you make a decision about whether or not this is a song that you want to listen to. That's all sourcing. That's all that we're doing here. We're looking at the basic information on these documents, so we can get some idea of what we're about to read. So it'll make more sense. We're giving it context, right? The larger events that are impacting what we're about to read. So go ahead and work through this as you come on down. There's some questions for each document that you need to answer. Make sure when you're answering these questions down here that you're supporting what you have to say. Okay, that you're providing evidence from the reading to support your answer. Don't fall into the teenager trap. Well, I said it, so it must be true. Nay, nay, right? If you say it, you got to prove it. Good luck.